let me ask our first speaker, Grace Yong, to come up, and she's going to present to us. Can we all give a round of applause to Grace Yong?
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you for taking the time to be here, to pause, reflect, and to engage in a conversation that truly matters, the future of our children. I would like to begin with a picture. The education system in a country is like a staircase. At the very top sit the policymakers, those who make decisions based on political and economic priorities. Those decisions will travel down the steps through government agencies that translate policies into regulations and implementation. And at the bottom of the staircase, where the rubber meets the road, are the children. One of the most important takeaways from my master's degree in early childhood education was this. Educational policies are ultimately politically and economically driven. You will be naive to assume that the children's developmental interests are always the primary driver. The rhetoric may sound child-centered, but the reality is more complex. The real challenge then for all of us is how do we protect the interests of our children in this larger system? In Singapore, many agencies implementing early childhood policies are led by government scholars who, with respect, may never have spent a single day in a classroom full of young children. Meanwhile, I have spent almost 3 decades at the bottom of the staircase, working directly with children from 2 months to 6 years of age. This is the perspective I bring today. Let me briefly share my journey to provide some context. I started Character Montessori after my youngest son turned 2. And one of our earliest parents is here today, Joanne. Yes. Okay, her daughter is going to university next month. Flying out of Singapore. Okay. At that time, I was making a career switch, and I was also raising 4 boys. I wanted my children to grow into confident, secure adults with strong values, able to make wise choices, provide for their families, and contribute meaningfully to society. I wanted to build a preschool that gave children a foundation upon which parents could build upon toward these goals. To do this, I developed a character-based program grounded in the research of Professor Thomas Licona. His work emphasizes that character education must be both taught and taught, and it must be built on a foundation of love and trust. We teach children the why it is good to be good, why you need to be attentive. Because when you're attentive, you learn something. When you're attentive, you are not likely to spill your oats. You are able to manage better, and also how to be good, how to be attentive. So we do things like look at the person speaking to you, be attentive. Right? So we unpack the character traits for the children and help them to gain self-control and capability in engaging in the right behavior. And we also teach them that choices have consequences. We intentionally cultivate character traits like self-control, attentiveness, patience, kindness, etc., respect, etc. I chose a research-based approach because I wanted my work to truly have a lifelong impact on children, not something I simply try and hope for the best. I also chose the Montessori approach because I personally struggle with the cookie cutter educational system. Even though I made it to the top educational institutions in Singapore, I never quite fit the mold. And for the longest time, in fact too long, I thought it was my fault. See, Montessori sees the child as an individual, not as a cohort. Okay? In the mainstream system, the focus is often on the gap. How the child does not meet the standards, how the child does not match the curriculum or the timeline. The emphasis is on how the child falls short of the system. In Montessori, we ask a very different question. We ask, where is the child now? Okay. And the next question is, what is the next step to take? How to take the next step with him or her? We build on the strengths and use the strengths to support the challenges. We focus on learning without gaps, building strong foundations so children can take the leap when they are ready. This work has been deeply fulfilling for us. However, in recent years, we have encountered increasing challenges on many fronts. One major issue is the policy push to introduce kindergarten classes into primary schools, placing children into the cookie-cutter performance-driven programs at an even earlier age. Increasingly, we see parents buying into the rhetoric, often out of fear. If I don't put my child into this kindergarten, this primary school's kindergarten, I may not get a place in the primary one. Yeah. So even though I'm within walking distance of the school. So it's out of fear or pressure rather than out of developmental understanding. At the same time, we are seeing significant changes in the children themselves. Children today are much more fidgety and edgy. Self-control, self-regulation is difficult for them. They are far less able to manage emotions. We are seeing 5 and 6-year-olds who are like spring-loaded mechanisms, then for no reason, you don't know why they unload. They jump around, they scream, that sort of thing. They have emotional outbursts, and they're less able to communicate their needs without a meltdown. Yeah, I mean, we have been training children to verbalize their needs, right, as they grow, instead of crying to tell us, but it's getting harder and harder to do that, and even older children, we find it more and more difficult. They are increasingly tuned out and self-absorbed. You really see more and more children, they sit around, they're just in a world of their own. They sing to themselves and then they talk to themselves, as though they're watching something. And you can call the name like 3 times, many times. There's no response until you raise your voice. And we also see that children are developing very poor dietary habits. Many of them seem to grow up on nuggets, fries, gummy bears. These are some signs and symptoms of children growing up in a device-based parenting age. These realities made it clear that my team and I needed more support. We have my team and I have a lot of conversations about these issues. And it is not just to manage behavior. But we felt that we need to deeply understand children's emotional world. I mean, yeah, you sit around there, why are they like that? And to help them develop self-regulation, communication, and social skills. That was when I came across the Arini method in early childhood education with integrated food gardens. And it truly felt like an answered prayer. We share the same commitment to intentional character development and individualized education. Dr. Arini embraces Montessori principles, but she goes further by offering practical tools that support both educators and parents. One of these tools is the social brain mode tool, which helps teachers and parents identify their own communication patterns, as well as those of the children. Later on, when we watch the videos for presented by Dr. Arini, you'll know more about this. It provides a framework for understanding how different children perceive, process, and respond to the world. In my very first Zoom meeting with Dr. Arini, she assessed my social brain mode. The accuracy was pretty striking. As an adult with, I think, a high level of self-awareness, what she offered was not new information, but a clear, integrated framework that brought many fragmented insights together. I could immediately see how powerful this could be in helping children learn emotional regulation. Another aspect I deeply appreciate is the intentional engagement with parents and the wider community. Modern lifestyles place enormous pressure on families, and supporting children without supporting parents is simply not sustainable. Her family partnership framework emphasizes that mother is the first educator and that peace begins at home. It provides structure, training, and resources for parents, starting from birth. I've been working towards this ideal for many years. I've tried Parents Talk, even a library program for children to bring books home. I even created packages for toddlers to bring home and work with their parents. Different things. Yeah, but I was not able to come up with a structured, sustainable approach. So I've been feeling quite defeated in this aspect. And so seeing it so clearly structured was deeply encouraging. Finally, I must mention the integrated food gardens. When my children were young, my own children were young, I grew stuff with them from seed to harvest. We grew mung beans, when we harvested the beans. We grew even rice, and peanut. That's when I figured out how come the peanut blossoms up above the ground, but you get the peanut in the ground. Okay? I learned together with my own kids. We grew chai sim and xiao bai cai. And I remember one morning our xiao bai cai were all gone. I think at night the snail came and just raised the crop. So I was learning all these things with my children, and I was really enjoying it too. I've always wanted to implement this fully in my preschool, but realistically, we only manage small sporadic projects like sprouting green beans. Every year we sprout the beans and we harvest them to cook and eat. Okay. We have been able to keep money plants alive. Okay. But to do a sustainable, integrated approach, it has been very defeating. Food gardens offer so many benefits, right? They cultivate character, like character traits like responsibility, patience, Even sprouting beans are not easy, you know. You've got to take care of the beans and make sure that, you know, you put water, keep them in the dark places. Okay, then if you are sprouting and there's a weekend, somebody's got to, you make the kids bring home and keep in the dark place, that sort of thing. Even just that takes commitment. Yeah. There's sensory learning, right? Connection to nature, and perhaps most importantly, they help children develop a healthier relationship with food. Children are far more willing to eat the vegetables they have grown themselves. As I come to a close, I want to be very clear. I'm not here to criticize parents, educators, or policies. I'm here because I care. As a grandmother, a mother, an educator, and as someone who has spent nearly 30 years at the ground level with children. The world our children are growing up in today is faster, louder, and more fragmented than ever before. When children struggle with attention, emotions, or connection, it is not because they are weak, it is because they are responding to the environment around them. We may not always influence what happens at the top of the staircase, but we can shape what happens at the ground level, in our homes, classrooms, and communities. We can choose to slow down. We can choose relationship over performance. We can choose character before achievement and connection before compliance. Children are incredibly resilient when their developmental needs are met with intention and understanding. When parents and educators, communities work together, children do not just learn how to behave, they learn why. They do not just cope, they thrive. The future of our children will not be secured by more pressure or earlier academics. It will be secured by adults who are willing to understand them better, guide them intentionally, and protect their childhood with wisdom and courage. The eco-societies that the Arini method is an integral part of will certainly help us work together. If there's one thing I hope you take away today, it is this. Capable, grounded, emotionally healthy children do not happen by accident. Okay? They are raised intentionally, patiently, and together. Thank you for caring enough to be here and for being part of that journey with our children.